Alright, so first and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High Yahweh, and we do so in the name of Hamashiach Yahweh Shah, and I pray that this lesson is further edifying to whoever it comes across. So there are two major groups of imposters in the Holy Land, the Ashkenazi and the Sephardi. But many don't understand the difference between these people, and most don't know why we call them imposters. The simple explanation is that Ashkenaz descends from Gomer and Gomer descends from Japheth, not Shem, as it is written in Genesis 10 and 3 through 5. This makes the group called Ashkenaz a Japhetic nation. On the other hand, the name Sephardi comes from the Hebrew word Sepharad, which means Spain, and is only applied to imposters that trace their lineage back to Spain, which is Edomite territory. This means the names Sephardi and Ashkenaz don't actually connect you to anything dealing with the Israelites or the land of Israel. But sadly, this isn't enough to convince most that these are imposters, and we always have to dig deeper. With this being said, in today's video, we will further examine the Sephardi and Ashkenazi people groups, and Lord willing, whoever has ears to hear is further edified. Let's start with the Sephardi. When looking into history, we are given two theories for the arrival of the Sepharad to Spain. One claims they were Israelite slaves who were brought to Spain after the fall of the first temple, while the other claims they came after the fall of the second temple when Romans took thousands of Israelite slaves back to Europe. The problem is that both theories are true, but they are being applied to the wrong people. As we know, the further we travel in the past, the darker the depictions of the biblical figures becomes, as can be proven with multiple depictions found all over the world. So the Israelites already should be viewed as a melanated people over anything else. But to further the point, if the Sepharad were brought to Spain during the Babylonian captivity, they should look similar to the depictions we see of Israelites around this time. With this being said, on the screen we see a picture that's been floated in the Israelite community for years, and it shows us the depiction of the Israelites when seen in the Assyrian captivity. And it's very clear these were a melanated people group. This is important because the Northern Kingdom went into the Assyrian captivity 200 years before the Southern Kingdom went into Babylon, and they were all depicted as a melanated people, not white. This wouldn't have changed within just 200 years. So any Southern Kingdom Israelite that went to Spain during the Babylonian captivity would have been melanated just like their melanated brothers in the Northern Kingdom, which means today there should be a melanated group of Sepharad Israelites, not a European one. But let's dig deeper. If the Sepharad were actually melanated, who were the non-melanated people that also lived in Spain?
Who the fuck is this guy? Hey, who the fuck are you?
The few DNA studies done on the Euros claiming Sepharad descent today actually points to them originating in the Iberian Peninsula, not Israel. This peninsula was inhabited by various groups of people, but the people who lived there during the Inquisition of Spain were descendants of Edomite Romans. The Romans also gave it the name Hispania, which was later shortened to Spain. With this being said, if you originate in the Iberian Peninsula and look Spanish, you most likely descend from Roman Edomites, not Israelites. And since Sephardi Euros originate on the peninsula, they are also Edomites, not Israelites. Now remember, the Israelites in Spain were melanated, and the people claiming to be Sephardi today are Euros who originate from Spain. This means the modern day Sephardi movement is just a bunch of Spaniards, and they became Jews through conversion alone. Historians point to the time of the Maccabees being when this conversion took place, as you see on the screen, and the battle that led to this conversion was recorded in 1 Maccabees. So 1 Maccabees 5 and 3, and it reads, "Then Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Arabataim, because they besieged Gael, and gave them a great overthrow, and abated their courage, and took their spoils." With this being said, let's see what their role was before the conversion by addressing their actions during the Babylonian captivity. And through this, we will further prove Spaniards and their Sephardi descendants are Edomites. The second paragraph in the picture on the screen shows Spanish kings actually played a role in the subjugation of Israel. These Spanish kings were allies with Nebuchadnezzar and participated in the siege of Jerusalem, which is interesting due to Psalms 137 and 7 through 9 and Obadiah 1 and 11 telling us the Edomites are who helped the Babylonians. This means those Spanish kings were actually Edomites under a different name. And due to the Sephardi originating with these people, they are also Edomites who were exposed to the Israelite faith after subjugating the Southern Kingdom, and then later being subjugated by the Southern Kingdom. So when we fast forward to the Spanish Inquisition, those were Euro-Sephardi converts, and any record of the melanated Jews in the area had to have been wiped from history. Now let's address the Ashkenazi. As we went over in the first part of this video, the name Ashkenaz points to a Japhetic origin. But to further the point, geneticists in Israel have admitted this name can also be traced to the Turkish villages of Ishkenaz, Iskenaz, and Ashenaz. These are believed to be the original Japhetic homelands for all Ashkenazi around the world.
we have a text of a letter that purports to be from Chasdai ibn Shaprut to King Joseph, which says a lot about, what his motivations were. He says, Chasdai ibn Shaprut says, I always asked ambassadors, what's the situation of Jews in your territory, and do you know of other Jewish communities and so on? And he's always been curious about this place called Al-Khazar. Finally, he gets some documents that suggest that, there are some Jews living there. So he sends some messengers all the way out, and they bring back this document, which says, from King Joseph, he says, I wish to inform you that your beautifully phrased letter was given to us by Isaac, son of Eliezer, a Jew from Germany. You made us happy, and we are delighted with your understanding and wisdom. You also ask us in the epistle, of what people, of what family, of what tribe are you? So Joseph goes on to say that they're descended from Japhet, which is one of the children of Noah in the Bible, associated especially with the Greeks. And one of Japhet's descendants was a man named Togarma, who was associated with the Turks. And finally, you have the Khazarians, and particularly a king named Bulan. King Joseph says in this epistle that the Christians and the Muslims were in the region of Khazaria, and King Bulan was kind of curious, maybe we should abandon our pagan lifestyle and choose one of these monotheistic faiths. And so the King Bulan of the Khazars invites essentially a three-way debate. He wants to hear from the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews. And this debate kind of ends in a standstill until finally King Bulan says to the Muslims, he says, well, listen, of the two, which is worse, Christianity or Judaism? And he says, well, certainly Christianity is worse. Then he asks the Christians, who's worse, the Muslims or the Jews? And the Christians say, oh, for sure the Muslims. And so since they both agree that Judaism is slightly better than the other alternative, King Bulan says, fine, that's it. I guess I'm going to become Jewish. And he converts, and some of his society at least converts with him. That is the story of the Khazar conversion.
There's also record of them having a mix of Iranian, which further points to Japhetic roots due to Iranians descended from Japhet, as we see on the screen. The last mix would come from the Greeks, and this could represent Edomites or Japhites due to there being two versions of a Greek. The original Greeks descended from Javan, who is said to be the father of the Ionians, which is another name for the Greek people. The Ionians were scattered throughout Western Europe after the Ionian revolt failed against the Persians, and since then, they've assimilated into Western culture, which is now predominantly full of Edomites. So Indo-Europeans would later migrate to this area and colonize Greece, becoming the second group of Greeks we find in history and still see today. We know these people were Edomites due to them migrating from Asia, which is where the land of Edom can be found. With all this being said, the Greeks that are found in the Ashkenazi bloodline are never specified to a specific time period. So it's up to you to decide where you want to place it. But in the end of the day, they would either be Edomites or they would be Japhetic like the Iranians and the rest of the Ashkenazi. In simple words, the Ashkenazi are a Japhetic people with a possible splash of Idumean blood. So today, we learned the Sephardi people group are not Israelites from Spain. Instead, they are the Edomites that were present during the fall of the first temple, and they converted to their Sephardi identity due to being exposed. This conversion either happened off the books during the Babylonian captivity, or it happened during the revolt of John Hyrcanus in the time of the Maccabees, which means if these people were scattered from Spain during the Inquisition, it was for having the same religious views as the melanated Israelites in the area. We also learned that the Ashkenazi descend from Japhet through various Japhetic lineages, including the Turks, Iranian Persians, and possibly the Ionians, also known as the original Greeks. This Greek mix could have also been after the Indo-European invasion, which would add the splash of assimilated Edomites. But either way, the Greek mix isn't enough to speak for the entirety of the Ashkenazi people group. And most importantly, we started with the fact that the name Ashkenaz points to a Japhetic origin, as it is revealed in Genesis 25 and 25. So to wrap this up in simple words, the Ashkenazi are Japhetic, and the Sephardi are Idumeans, also known as Edomites. Neither have anything to do with the 12 tribes of Israel, which are the blacks, natives, and Latinos. These people have assumed an identity based on self-proclamation, which means they've avoided prophecy and genetic studies, negated connection through historical account, and provided the bare minimum when proven to be the real Israelites. Yet they still expected you to agree with their conclusions simply because they said so. This makes no sense, and to accept this logic is intellectually irresponsible. So instead of accepting it, we will continue to debunk their reasoning using the Bible, history, and the will of the Most High Yahweh. And Lord willing, this lesson was further edifying to whoever had ears to hear. Shalom.
I mean, me personally, I don't understand what you white boys all depressed about. Hey, you're white. Smile. And for a small fee, I can even get you McDonald's.